Hey mathematicians, now that we've learned everything about trigonometry in terms of the three different trig functions for geometry, let's go on ahead and learn about undoing them. So that is a scenario where, whoops, looks like I didn't get that slide up. Yep, we're going to continue unedited. So that's a scenario where we have two sides, no angle. So what that means is, depending on whether you have the opposite and hypotenuse, the opposite and the adjacent, or the adjacent and hypotenuse. That's right, that would be the SOHCAHTOA stuff. We're going to use sine, cosine, or tangent in the original equation, and then we're going to undo it to find the angle with inverse sine, inverse cosine, or inverse tangent. The way we find these, we can either second on our phone calculator, or if you're watching this video and you're at home, I strongly recommend you do it on here. There's nothing funky you have to do. You can type it in exactly like this on the Desmos calculator. The inverse functions are found on the functions menu in that calculator. I wish I could record that at the same time, but unfortunately on the iPad I cannot. So we're just going to go with it. So we've got a scenario. This symbol theta represents an angle. So out of the missing angle, that's my opposite. That's my adjacent. Whoops. That's my hypotenuse. Because that's my adjacent. The longest one had to be the hypotenuse. And I goofed up which one was across from the right angle. So I've got the adjacent and the hypotenuse, which means, according to this image, I'm going to use cosine. Because that is the one with the adjacent and hypotenuse. So we're going to do cosine of theta, which we could put x if we wanted to, equals adjacent 12 divided by hypotenuse 13. So that's cool. That is fine. We're trying to get the variable by itself, and the variable is that theta sign, which is why I said we should use x instead. Just so you understand that this is the variable that we're trying to isolate, we have to undo cosine. So, in order to undo cosine, I have to bring in a cos negative 1, an inverse cosine. That's going to cancel with cosine, but I can't just do that to one side. I have to do it to both. So if I'm using a phone calculator, I'll do 12 divided by 13. And then second cosine. Whoops. Clear. Let's try that again. 12 divided by 13 equals, then second cosine. And if I'm using the Desmos calculator, I'm going to type it in exactly like this. Cos negative 1 first, and then 12 over 13 in the parentheses. When I do that, I get theta equals 22.6, and that should be in degrees. And that's the answer. So set it up, one-step problem. And that's how all these are going to go. So we'll probably turn up the speed a little bit. All right, so it's time to label from the angle. And from the angle, we've got the opposite for the hypotenuse out of the right angle, and the adjacent, which means the two sides we have are opposite and adjacent. This one is going to be tangent. So we have tan theta, or x, your preference, equals the opposite 4 over the adjacent 13. And so, just like on the last problem, to get rid of tangent, we need to bring in tan negative 1. Cancels here. Theta equals, so on my phone calculator, I'm going to do 4 divided by 13 equals, and then hit the tan negative 1 button. And I get 17.1 degrees. And that's it. That's the answer. So we're going to do another one. no opposite. Out of the right angle is the hypotenuse, and then the adjacent. I have the hypotenuse and adjacent, so this is like the first one, right? Cosine equals the opposite, or the adjacent, 6 divided by the hypotenuse, 9. Clear everything out of my calculator. 6 divided by 9 equals, and then cos negative 1, which I need to write down. I get 48.2 degrees. Again, I can't emphasize enough, if you're having trouble following along, use the Desmos calculator instead and type it in exactly like this. This is located on the functions menu in that calculator. All right, 2 more. Out of the angle, we have the opposite. We have the hypotenuse, we have the adjacent. So this one looks like another tangent one. Tan theta equals the opposite, 11.9, over the adjacent, which is 10. And we're going to tan negative 1 to undo the tangent. So then on the calculator, we do 11.9 divided by 10, and tan negative 1. This one looks like it's going to round to 50. 49.95 rounds up to 50 if we were going to 1 decimal place. One more problem. Let's see. Looks like we didn't have a sign problem on here. That's my bad. Thought I did, but it's fine. It's the same process. Opposite makes this the adjacent if this is the hypotenuse. Cosine of theta equals adjacent 4.4 divided by 11. Undoing this with cos negative 1 to get theta by itself, or x by itself. So clear on my calculator. 4.4 divided by 11. And then cos negative 1 button. We get 66.4 degrees. That's where we're at. That's all we need to know. We got to figure out which trigonometry we're using first based on the sides we have, set it up, and then use the inverse function. If we really need to see a sign problem, let me know by Canvas messaging me. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.